Do you have a tendency to overcomplicate your cards? I know I do. Sometimes I forget that very simple ink blending with stencils is a great way to make clean, simple, and striking cards. Welcome to another episode of Color Connection with Amber. Natalie from the Altenew Mixed Media Design team is kicking off January with some pinks and dusky purples for our Inspiration Challenge. Be sure to follow the Inspiration Challenge link below and enter your projects for a chance to win. I'm starting off with the Altenew Color Block Heart Stencil, and this is a builder stencil, so you rotate the stencil to create color blocked hearts. I'll adhere the stencil to a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is A2 size Neenah Classic Crust Solar Weight 80-pound cardstock. With builder stencils like this, I recommend lining up the edge of the cardstock to the edge of the design so that when you go to shift your stencil, you're able to ink blend the entire design. Shifting the stencil and getting the full design is more challenging if you line up your cardstock in the center of the stencil. For the inks, I chose Baby Pink, Ruby Red, and Amethyst Crisp Dye Ink to coordinate with the Inspiration Challenge colors. And I have the large ink blending tool from Altenew. You can do one of two things. You can either pick up your ink directly from the ink pad, or I'm blending this on a glass mat, which I love because it cleans up so well. The other thing that you can do, especially if you wanted to mix colors, is you could squish the ink onto your glass mat and pick up the ink from the glass mat. I kind of alternate between both of these, but if I'm really wanting to mix a color before I put it on the paper, I'll go ahead and smush the ink pads directly onto the glass mat and mix the colors together with my blending tool before bringing it to the paper. So that's something to think about. Start your ink blending off the paper and then bring it onto the paper to prevent getting any harsh edges. I'll go ahead and gently peel the stencil off of the background. And you can see that I have just a little bit of a mistake down in that bottom right corner. I'm not too worried about that. Go ahead and clean off your glass mat with a microfiber tool, and you also need to clean off your stencil. I just do this with a dry microfiber cloth. I don't want to use anything that's wet because I need to turn the stencil over and line it up to create the color block hearts. If my stencil has even a little bit of moisture on it, it's going to mar the cardstock. Go ahead and get it adhered down, and I'm going to ink blend with the same colors. However, you could swap the inks and start with the light pink at the bottom and then move your way up to the purple at the top, and that would give you a more dynamic look. That's what I had intended to do, but I totally forgot and went with the same colors of ink. If you're enjoying this video and learning something new, be sure to like and subscribe down below. Of course, I've sped up the ink blending because it can take quite a while. Gently peel back your stencil and be careful not to touch the cardstock. You can see I'm touching the tape here to make sure that I don't smear any ink on the card. I wanted a bold graphic sentiment, so I decided to use Circle Greetings Love Dye. Now this actually cuts a window out of your cardstock. It doesn't actually cut the dye out completely. Like you can see in this white piece here, this white scrap of cardstock here, all I wanted from this piece was the love dye. Here, I'm just checking to see if my craft mat is actually cutting the glass, and it is, which I think is so strange because this is a glass cutting mat. At least I think that's what it's for. I don't know, you guys. It's weird to me that the craft knife would actually cut or etch into this glass mat. Anyway, that's beside the point. So I'm cutting out this love piece because you can see that I used the black negative pieces from this piece that I cut here. So that's how the die normally cuts. It cuts out a window. And I used the 2 black pieces and I cut out this extra love out of white cardstock because I felt like it was really difficult to read the word love with the hearts in the background. So I'll go ahead and piece this together for an inlaid die cut look. And it's really easy to do. Just line up your sentiment with the 2 negative pieces of black cardstock. And then I'm going to flip that over and tape this together from the back so that it's easier to glue onto my piece. Here I used a liquid adhesive just to give me a little bit of wiggle room to make sure I get this straight on the card. It would be difficult to use like a T-roller to get this lined up because you don't have a straight edge. Then I'll glue in the center of the letters, and I thought at this point this card was done, but I did end up white heat embossing a sub-sentiment from the Hello and Hugs stamp set. So you can see the finished card here. I'm glad I opted for the black negative space sentiment because I think it gives your eye a good place to focus on this card. For the second card, I'll use the Flowing Hearts stencil, and you can see that I've used this stencil quite a bit. I don't always clean my stencils all the way, but of course that doesn't impact the way that they function. So I'm going to be using the same 3 colors and the large ink blending tool. You could also use the small ink blending tools if you wanted to get more color definition into each one of these little patterns within this heart, but I just wanted an overall blended look. This time, instead of going top to bottom with an ombre look, I'm just kind of putting colors here and there, trying to give it a little bit of a shaded look, but not necessarily shaded in the shape of a heart, if you know what I mean. So I'm just deepening up the amethyst purple so that you can see it a little bit better. Be sure to tape off any areas like that small heart above and the bottom of the stencil to make sure you don't get any stray ink on your card. And gently peel off the tape. My favorite part is the big reveal so that you can see how the ink blending turned out. I trimmed off the love sentiment from that first die cut that we made, and I'll go ahead and stamp Hello and Hugs in Obsidian Pigment ink onto this card. Here I'm using the 2-in-1 glue pen to add adhesive to this die cut, and I cut these from 165-pound Nina Epic Black cardstock. I like to use this for my black die cuts because it's much thicker than regular black cardstock, which means I don't need to stack multiple die cuts. I can just use just one layer. Here's the finished card. I did add a couple of black dots to this just to add a little more interest to this card. It wasn't quite as busy as the Color Block Hearts card. And I hope you guys enjoyed these card designs today. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you soon with more inspiration.
Hello crafters, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching!